If you're new here, my name is Megan. I'm a homeschool mom of 2. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any more homeschool videos and homeschool DIYs. I love to share homeschool budgeting tips, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Lapbook using the American Girls unit study from Fields of Daisies. We have used other curriculum for the American Girls in the past, but we've found Fields of Daisies is our favorite, and we'll put a link in the description. So let me just go through how I created this Lapbook. First, whenever I'm creating a Lapbook, I like to use white folders instead of like the manila color folders because I just like things to pop a little bit more, especially if my kids are going to be writing on them using crayons. And we use these folders for several of our books apart from American Girls. I will have more tutorials on how we're using Lapbooks for 5 in a row, so stay tuned for that. The next thing I do, I look for an image online of the book cover and I just print it and then cut it to the front. So that's what I've done here. I have these templates that I've created and I will put a link for those. Those are free on my website, and you can use these. You can print them on any color paper that you want. They're just black and white, so you can print them however you'd like. So what I did is I took the Fields of Daisies unit study and I broke it up, and I'll put the link here for the Fields of Daisies, and I broke it up and cherry picked the things from the unit study that I thought we were going to use. And I loved using this for our Lapbook because I didn't have to go and search for images or resources. Everything was in the Lapbook for me. The reason I love the Fields of Daisies unit studies for American Girl is because they're so complete. It's a 4-week study and it has copy work, Bible study if that's something you want to add, history, science. It is amazing, and there's so many original ideas that she has in her unit studies, and I appreciate those so much. So let me just take you through. What I did is, these are actually the only 2 things that I went and found pictures for, but there is an artist study on Winslow. The only thing I did print were these 2 smaller images so that they would fit in here, but you will find artist study information about Winslow in the American Girl pack. The nice thing is you don't have to use this with just American Girl. There's a full list of like recommended books that she has, a full recommended book list that you can choose from if you didn't want to do American Girls, and then you could just change out the cover on the front, and that would be pretty much all you did. And then instead of putting what was Addie's life like in North Carolina and then what was Addie's life like in Pennsylvania, what you could do is maybe Soldiers of the North, and then Soldiers of the South, and then Soldiers of the North. And that's kind of what I did here. This is an image from the American Girl pack. So what I did is I cut a Confederate soldier and the Union soldiers, and I put those here because I thought we could list the southern states and the northern states. And something I like to do with our Lapbook is I like to add these, because these are such complete unit studies. You can take these off and add more papers to keep everything together. So those come up, and then you can add extra papers, and that's what I've done here. So maybe for younger kids, you wouldn't have as many, and I'll put a link for both the folders and for these paper holders. And so when we go through our unit studies, maybe my sons wouldn't have as much information, so that my daughter could, like there's even a study on Samuel Morse and the Morse code. Maybe my sons wouldn't have as much information, but my daughter, since she's going to be 11, we would add more of a deeper dive for her. So these are just some of the pages I kind of cherry picked that I thought that we would use as we went through the unit study. And there are books to go, like the What Was and Who Was books to go along with these. So what was the Civil War? Who was Harriet Tubman? Who was Frederick Douglass? How did the Civil War end? And then what was the Emancipation Proclamation? And then what I have under here is important battles of the Civil War. And this, I just cut this out, and anything that kind of jumped out at me that I really thought we were going to use, I would cut out the headline, like the title, and I taped it down into these graphics that I created. So what I did is I just made them like accordion fold, and I glued them together underneath. So instead of it being a full page, it's now accordion style, and it can just be folded back up. And then who was Abraham Lincoln? I put a quote bubble. These quote bubbles are it's also a page from the pack. So then I just cut out the quote bubble that I wanted. and then glued that there. These images of Abraham Lincoln and also this image of the Gettysburg Address is also in the pack. The only images that you're going to see here that are not from the pack are these two, and that's only because I wanted them smaller. Everything here is from the pack, like all the images. Any of the graphics I created, and I'll put a link for those. I wanted this to look like a train, like train tracks for the Underground Railroad. And then when I did these flip books here, what I did was I just took the page that, like, here's the who was Frederick Douglass, when did he live, same thing, when did he live, why is he well known, and what do you admire most about Abraham Lincoln, why is he well known, what legacy did he leave behind. So that's basically what I did. I created these infographics, and then I just taped in, instead of having the full page here, I cut them out and then taped them or glued them in here. All the way, there's another infographic here to be filled in. And then when we do these pages here, what was Addie's life like in North Carolina? After we add the southern states, we would then go through and write what her family life, what her home life was like, do the flag of North Carolina, and just add some information there. And then this is also from the pack, as well as the Africa. I cut these out and just put them on the infograph. And then here's some other cutouts that my daughter can fill in with information that she would like. Then what was Addie's life like in Pennsylvania? And I, again, put the northern soldiers, and we'll list the northern states, and then we'll list what her life was like, maybe do the Pennsylvania flag. And then when you flip it over, it's called a Lapbook. And then on the back side here, so it doesn't have to be like really...
Can you make an airplane?
I can make an airplane. Just a minute, I'll make an airplane. Paper airplanes are my hidden talent. And it doesn't have to be super fancy. Like, I just cut out a piece of construction paper, but it adds a nice like pop to the background. Like, this adds such a nice pop to this background, just it being red, as opposed to if I just left it white. So it's just nice to have that little pop of color. Just adds a little more interest to it. So I added the red background, and then this is also the quilt code. And then here are the cutouts for that. When we get to this activity, she can cut it out and create her own quilt code. Again, these I just cut out from one of the pages. What was the Underground Railroad? And I wanted this again to look like railroad tracks. What was the Underground Railroad? I did say railroad tracks. I glued the questions from the worksheets onto here. And then when you lift it all the way up, you can see the full quilt that we will add these to. This is the constellation, which is how they would travel through the Underground Railroad. And this graphic also came from the pack. And here, traced a quarter and then put that here. There is a Harriet Tubman quarter, and I want to do a rubbing on a piece of paper and then cut it out and glue it onto there. That's just an idea I came up with. This is our Welcome to Addie's World American Girl Lapbook, and this is my original idea. I just took the Field of Daisies American Girl Unit Studies and turned it into a lapbook, and I think it turned out fabulous. Kind of got away from lapbooks for a while, and we were doing just book reports, but I feel like this is so much more complete because it has historical fiction, literature, it's also going to have history, geography, there's science, there is art. So I think she's going to have a lot more fun with this. We used to do these, and I do have old versions of these. We did American Girl about 4 or 5 years ago, and a lot of people have asked me to share our old, like, Kaya from the very beginning when we started lapbooking the American Girls, but I didn't want to share those because the resources weren't my favorite. What I loved about this, using the Fields of Daisies, is that everything was in there. All I had to do was look up the book cover. The image of the book cover is on the unit study, the cover of the unit study packet, so I didn't even have to do that. I'm not even sure why I bothered. I loved using the Fields of Daisies unit study because everything is together. I didn't have to go searching around the internet for this and that and wasting a lot of time. I printed out what I thought we were going to use. I cherry picked through it. I also printed for myself the weekly planner. So my daughter will have this, and then I will have the weekly planner, and we can go through together and add vocabulary to her language arts notebook. I'll go back into the digital version of this, and then I can click on these links to watch the drinking gourd, which is about the constellations and how they followed the constellations on the Underground Railroad. And we'll also hear some words read some words from Abraham Lincoln. There's another weekly planner. So the pages that I thought that I would use as teacher pages, I printed those off as well. It's fabulous. I'll put the link for Fields of Daisies. I think you'll love it, and I hope you create these lap books, and if you do, tag us on Instagram at HeroldsatHome. I'll put the link for our Instagram below. I hope you follow us, and I hope you have a fantastic homeschool year.